I have a very simple philosophy in Dynasty Fantasy Football. Buy talent, especially when the cost and valuation of talent drops. Especially if you think that today's value is a lot lower than what the value can be tomorrow. A prime example of a player that you might be out on in Dynasty, but I still am very in on is Washington Commanders wide receiver Jahan Dotson. I was a big fan of Jahan Dotson's prospect profile coming out of Penn State. In his final college season, Dotson ranked number 12 in receptions with 91, number 18 in receiving yards with 1,182, and he tied for number 8 in receiving touchdowns in college football. 4.43 speed, catch and run abilities, volume profile, zone beater, great hands, great talent. And the Commanders recognized this because they took Dotson number 16 overall in the 2022 NFL Draft. Rookie season, Dotson was banged up across a chunk of games. He did play in 12 and averaged 10.9 fantasy points per game during that span. If you strictly look at the games, though, that he played 70% plus of the snaps, he averaged 14.03 fantasy points per game. 523 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns in 12 games was a decent start to his career. A lot of optimism heading into 2023, but it unfortunately did not look great. Dotson played in 5 more games, but he averaged less fantasy points per game with 7.3. His 83 targets ranked number 49 for the position. His 518 receiving yards was 5 less than his rookie season, again with him playing in 5 more games. 3 less touchdowns. We did see the flashes of what we saw rookie season, weeks 8 and 9. He finishes the wide receiver 7 and wide receiver 9. Gave us a little hope in those 2 weeks. Back-to-back games with a touchdown, 108 and 69 receiving yards, 18 targets. But this unfortunately didn't amount to much. You easily could have labeled Dotson's sophomore year as a bust for fantasy football. Couple situational changes, though, so far in this offseason. Ron Rivera was fired as the Washington head coach, which I think is a good thing. And I think there's a good chance Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, is hired as the next head coach for Washington. And the Lions were top 5 in total yards, passing yards, and rushing yards this season. Sam Howell finished with 3,945 passing yards and 21 passing touchdowns. Player Profiler ranked him number 1, though, in interceptable passes. I think it's more than likely that Washington might be moving on from Sam Howell. And don't rule out a chance that they trade up in this NFL draft to go and select Caleb Williams, which might just be a big maybe at the end of the day, but it is a possibility. So checking a couple boxes for Dynasty Fantasy Football. The value and the cost of Jahan Dotson in leagues did lower. It did not raise because of a poor 2023 season, a.k.a. he's a buy low candidate. Solid prospect who has a high volume and production profile. And we've seen flashes of Dotson in his first 2 seasons at the NFL level. He also is a guy that Washington had a high investment in back in 2022. So at the end of the day, if you believe in talent, with the example being Jahan Dotson, buy talent in Dynasty, especially if you can buy it at a lowered cost when you believe that the value will go up later. With the situational changes that are going to happen this offseason with the Commanders, I think he is going to be set up to be even more successful in the future. So mark me in on Jahan Dotson in Dynasty Fantasy Football.